We've all heard, or most of us have anyway, we can remember those words, I am the greatest. I am the king of the world. Muhammad Ali. And even though he said these words really to promote, he was a smart guy. He wanted to fill seats. He wanted to get people in the seats and sell tickets. And so he would brag. He would predict rounds where he was going to knock boxers out. He would create nicknames for them, like his first heavyweight title, Sonny Liston. He called him the Big Ugly Bear. And he would do all kinds of stuff. But I think people who loved him, they recognized that he was being playful most of the time. And he had come across a wrestler named Gorgeous George who packed the wrestling arena. And Ali saw him and he was like, huh. And he talked to Gorgeous George afterwards. And Gorgeous George said, yeah, when you start bragging and doing all this stuff, there will be people who will come because they love you, and there will be people who will come because they want to see you get beaten. And Ali was like, oh, that's a great idea. So whether people loved him or hated him, they would come to see him fight because it was exciting. Why did I choose Muhammad Ali to talk about today? Well, Muhammad Ali and I shared something in common. We both started boxing at the age of 12. My stepfather taught me how to box when I was a kid. And we used to go to the Virginia Beach Dome and watch professional boxers come into town. And I used to watch Muhammad Ali fight. And some of those guys that he fought came to Virginia Beach. And I saw people like Ernie Shavers, Leon Spinks, and other guys. Jerry Corey, I believe, came to Virginia Beach. I saw those guys fight. And Henry, my stepfather, got me into a boxing team, an inner city boxing team. And Henry was my manager. I wore all black. I wore a black shirt, black trunks with gold trim. And Henry wore a black shirt that said, Justin's manager. So, my second fight was in front of 650 people. And it was a 90-pound weight class. And I fought this kid. I'm in the black trunks, gold trim. And this kid's supposed to be 90 pounds. He looks kind of big, doesn't he? Anyway, after the first round, I went into the corner where Henry was, and I said, this kid hits hard. And for 2 rounds, we were having a slugfest. I'd hit him, he'd hit me. And this is where Muhammad Ali comes in. So after the second round, going into the third, in front of 650 people, inspired by the likes of Muhammad Ali, I came out and started to dance around the ring. And the crowd went wild, and somehow I ended up winning by a split decision. I don't know if it was my boxing skills or my dancing, but somehow I ended up winning that fight. But my third fight, I got a bloody nose. And my mom came to that match. And that was the end of my boxing career. But more than that, I learned as time went on that Muhammad Ali was much bigger than boxing. That he had a love of God. He had an integrity of his beliefs. And he loved people. And he was inspiring. And so that's why I wanted to talk about Muhammad Ali today. I want to share some lessons that we could draw from his life, and I know there's a lot more we could learn, but I want to share a few today. One is act as if. He said, I am the greatest. Yes, he was promoting his matches and the things he did, but deep down, I think he knew he was the greatest. He believed he was the greatest. You know, sports psychologists, which I've read many books on sports psychology, the greatest athletes and performers, they know they're great. When they go out and compete, their attitude is, I'm going to kick all y'all's butts. Now, when they're interviewed, most likely, especially a number of years ago, things might be shifting now, they're not going to say that publicly. Most people won't say it publicly, but they probably feel it inside. They know they're good. Interesting about Muhammad Ali is, even as a kid, you know, he got into boxing because his Schwinn bike got stolen. And he went to the police and complained. He said, Muhammad Ali said, I'm going to find that guy and kick his butt. And the policeman who coached boxing said to him, well, you better know how to box then. And that's how he got started. He started to train. 6 weeks later, he fought his first match. But even at that age, his brother said he felt he was going to be the greatest boxer in the world. He was going to be rich and famous and make a difference, even as a kid. And a lot of people who have made a big difference, they believed in themselves. They felt it. They believed it. Now, sometimes, no doubt, he didn't feel it, but he still acted. Listen to what he said. He said, to be a great champion, you must believe you are the best. If not, pretend you are. William James, considered the father of American psychology, taught the as-if principle. He said that people don't smile because they're happy because they smile. Now, I don't agree with him completely, but, you know, psychologists have experimented with that. They know they can put somebody's face by putting a pencil between their teeth or whatever and make their face smile a little bit, and they actually feel better. They can take shy people or people who are not that social, get them to act as if they're friendly and outgoing, and they will become more that way. They will feel friendlier. They will feel warmer. James said, if you don't feel courage, then act courageous. And you will find yourself becoming more courageous. When Muhammad Ali was predicting, I'm going to beat this guy in this round, and, you know, I am the greatest, in a way he was acting as if. I believe it worked both ways. He was acting as if, and he also believed it about himself. You know, Jesus taught something similar. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, said that Jesus the Christ affirmed, I am the resurrection and the life, before he was the resurrection and the life. Can you see the relevance to yourself, where you might want to shift how you feel about something and how you can begin to act as if? How would you act as if? If you wanted confidence, you would stand more confidently. You would speak more confidently. You would affirm for yourself something good that you want to experience and express. Positive affirmation for yourself. In a way, that's what he was doing. When he was making a prediction, man, he was putting himself on the line. He was burning all bridges. Many great athletes have that inner belief. Jack Nicklaus, considered perhaps the greatest golfer who ever lived, you know, arguably, he said, you've got to be a legend in your own mind before you're a legend in life. Interesting. I'm not saying we all have to be world famous or we all have to be a legend, but we can apply this in our life wherever we want to and whenever we need to. So, in his first heavyweight title shot at 22 years of age, he was going to fight this man named Sonny Liston, who was 215 pounds. He looked like a bull. This guy was a Mack truck, and he had a criminal past, and his manager had been a hitman for the mafia. This guy was intimidating. He was knocking people out left and right. He was big. And Muhammad Ali went to Miami where the fight was going to be, and the odds were against him 7-1. And what did Ali do? He called him a big, ugly bear. And he said, I'm going to knock him out in the 7th round. He said, this is when he became famous with Sonny Liston. I float like a butterfly and I sting like a bee. And sure enough, he knocked this big, tough guy out. So at this point, he was very popular. A lot of people loved him. They loved a lot of the older journalists, they didn't like him so much. They felt like he should be more subdued. He should not talk so much. They had nicknames for him: Mighty Mouth, Louisville Lip, all these different names. But people his age loved him. They loved him. So act as if. Act as if. I am the greatest. Know within yourself that you're a child of God. You've got what you need to be what you're here to be. What is it that you're here to do? What is it you're here to be? You've got it within you. So as Paul said, stir up the gift of God that is within you. Stir it up. And the as-if principle can be one of those ways. You feel sad? William James said, start whistling. Shift it. Second, believe God is in your corner. Prior to winning the heavyweight championship against Sonny Liston, he started cultivating a faith of Islam. He was raised Baptist, but through Malcolm X, he got introduced to Islam and the Nation of Islam. So after he beat Sonny Liston, he said to the world, yes, I am a Muslim, and yes, I do have connections with the Nation of Islam. They started to see that. Guess what? The person who was so loved was now starting to be disliked for his religion, for his connection with the Nation of Islam, which at a time where desegregation started to happen in the country, he was part of the Nation of Islam, which was talking about separatism, keeping black people with black people, white people with white people, believing that black people should form their own communities and businesses so they weren't dependent on white people. And that's what he believed at the time. And he started to be disliked. A few years later, 1967, the year I was born, it's amazing how much you miss, right? You think you've just been around forever. I guess part of us has. Another realm. And he refused to serve in the Vietnam War because he didn't believe in the war, and he cited his religion. He said, I don't fight a war. We don't fight wars unless Allah has asked us to fight a war. And now, most of Americans believed in the Vietnam War. So he became very unpopular, except for, some people who applauded him, believed in what he said. But most people didn't like him. They despised him at that point. How did he continue to do what he did? How did he move through such adversity? He believed God was in his corner. Allah was in his corner. He said, I don't have to be what you want me to be. I'm free to be what I want to be and think what I want to think. And that was a new example for people, that he could be that way. And he didn't care. People say, what if you go to jail? In fact, you know, when he did that, when he refused to go to Vietnam War, they charged him for draft evasion, and he was to serve 5 years in prison and have a $10,000 fine, which didn't actually happen. Eventually it got dismissed. He was banned from boxing for 3 years. His heavyweight title was stripped from him. Can you imagine? Because he didn't believe in the Vietnam War and because it was against his religious beliefs. He was willing to give up his heavyweight title, take the hate because of his convictions, because of his religious beliefs. I find that very inspiring. And he felt God was in his corner. Well, what happened was, years went by, and as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said, I remember the teachers at my high school didn't like Ali because he was so anti-establishment, and he kind of thumbed his nose at authority and got away with it. The fact that he was proud to be a black man and that he had so much talent made some people think that he was dangerous. But for those very reasons, I enjoyed him. So he had a lot of people who loved him, but a lot of people despised him. And so it was like 4 years before he got to fight again, when the Supreme Court, because of a technicality, dismissed the charges, and he started to fight again. And then he had his shot to get back the heavyweight title. And he was going to fight a man named George Foreman. How many of y'all have owned a Foreman grill? Well, let me tell you, before the Foreman grill, George Foreman was not so friendly looking. He became a lot friendlier and a lot more likable later on. Because back when Muhammad Ali fought George Foreman was a giant. He was huge. He was 25 years old and Muhammad Ali was 32. Hadn't really done much boxing, a few matches in 4 years, and now he was coming for the heavyweight title to be fought in Zaire, Africa. And George Foreman was knocking everybody out left and right. And people were afraid for Muhammad Ali. His own trainers were afraid for Muhammad Ali. But guess what? Ali wasn't afraid. His friend Abdul Rawan said that Ali believed Allah was in his corner. And he knew that George Foreman didn't have Allah in his corner, and that was Ali's rocket booster. He said, and this is a key important point, when you know who you are, it removes fear. And when you believe that you're serving God, the true and the living God, once you believe that, you don't fear nothing. That's the way he became. And astonishing, he knocks George Foreman out and wins this heavyweight championship for the second time. And people love him now. Why do they love him now? It's been 10 years. 10 years later, people love him now. Why? Because he was right about the Vietnam War. So now he becomes one of the most famous, loved people in the whole world. know that God is in your corner by whatever name you call it. Allah, Jesus, Moses, Jehovah, Spirit, the universe, whatever name it is, that presence, that activity is seeking to bless you, to move through you, to express more fully in and through and as you. It can't help itself. Jesus said it this way. He says, the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. It's the nature of the universe to want to express through us. It's we who block it by saying, oh, I don't know if I can. Oh, I don't want to. Oh, it's scary. Oh, what could happen? I don't know what can happen. Ali didn't say that. Ali said, I'm here to serve Allah. Next idea is to face adversity with optimism and purpose. Ali felt he was here for a purpose, that Allah had something for him to do and that he was doing it. And I think that's an important idea for all of us, to know that Spirit is guiding me every step of the way. I'm here for a purpose. Spirit is guiding me every step of the way. And when Ali, it's fascinating, when Ali would hit a roadblock, he would do something positive. He would take a positive attitude about it. When he was stripped of the heavyweight title, he went out and lectured on the college circuit, talking about his views on the war, talking about racism, and he was pointing out to people the racism that existed in America and in the world, and he was making a difference. He took a positive view of that time. Ebony magazine said that he was a blast furnace of racial pride. In his 1998 biography, King of the World, Ali said, I had to prove you could be a new kind of black man. I had to show that to the world. He had a sense of purpose. He had a mission. And so he would look at whatever his challenges were as opportunities. As Napoleon Hill said, who interviewed 500 of the most successful people of his time, he said that all of these successful people would see, when in every adversity, they would look for the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. And you and I can do the same. After losing his title to Leon Spinks, I saw the fight on television. How many of y'all saw that fight on television? Leon Spinks had only had 7 professional fights, and Ali didn't really train sufficiently for it. To me, watching his career, that's the only time he lost, is when he underestimated his opponent and didn't train as much as he could. Otherwise, he'd probably been undefeated. That's my opinion. Anyway, he got beat by Leon Spinks and lost his title. Right after the fight, they said, how do you feel about losing Leon Spinks? He said, well, now I can go forth and I can be the only person to ever win the heavyweight title for a 3rd time. Positive attitude right after the fact. His jaw got broken by Ken Norton, another fighter. He didn't prepare well for the fight, underestimated him, got his jaw broken, kept picking at his cheek, wondering what's wrong with my face during the fight. Well, he learned his jaw was broken. He said, how do you feel about having your jaw broken by Ken Norton? He said, I rejoice that I found out before I would have killed myself. When he got diagnosed with Parkinson's in his 40s, early 40s, can you imagine? He looked at it as a test and a blessing to keep him humble. He looked at it with an optimistic attitude after he lost to Smokin' Joe Frazier the first go-round. They asked him, how do you feel? You've been undefeated up to this point. Now you just lost to Joe Frazier. And he had told people, I'm fighting this fight. I'm fighting it for the black man. I'm fighting it for you all. And if I lose, you lose and all. He had put it all on the line, and he lost. And after the fight, they said, how do you feel about this? He said, well, you know, I've been so successful, and when you're so successful and then you lose, you've got to get back up, because there are people out there who are watching, and they lose people they love, they lose jobs, they lose money, and they need to get back up and do what they do. So if I can look at my loss and my defeat and get back up and keep on going, then they're going to look and they're going to know that I can get up and keep on going as well. He was thinking about what impact he was having on other people through what he was doing. And he was facing adversity with optimism. And you and I could do the same. What is the challenge that you're going through? What is the challenge? Financial, relationship, health, money, emotional? What is that challenge you're facing? Look for the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit in that challenge. What can you become through this challenge? What can you learn from this challenge? What can you gain from this challenge? How can you grow through this challenge? I think when you do that, you, like Muhammad Ali, become a champion in your own life. Act as if. Believe that God is in your corner. Face adversity. Be honest and admit your mistakes. Ali knew his strengths. He knew his strengths. He knew he could beat anybody if he applied himself. He knew his intelligence. He knew his looks. He knew his talent, his physical power, his abilities. And later on in life, as he matured in his faith, he knew his weaknesses and admitted them. He said, I fit my religion to do what I wanted to do. I did things that were wrong and chased women all the time. Everything I do now, I do to please Allah. As journalists and historians have pointed out, he cheated on his wives. He chased women, as he said. One journalist said the lowest part of Muhammad Ali's life was when the way he talked to Joe Frazier, calling Joe Frazier stupid and ugly and all these names, which kind of contradicted a little bit of what he stood for, which was elimination of racism. Yet he was feeding a stereotype by the things he was saying to Joe Frazier. And Joe Frazier was deeply hurt by it. I didn't know this, but Joe Frazier had given Ali money when he had been stripped of his title to help him going, to help him keep going. Joe Frazier was a fan of Ali, but Ali destroyed Frazier with his words and later admitted that he apologized for that. But Joe Frazier could never forgive him. He was cruel to some of the guys he fought. You know, he was human, like all of us. He had some of his weaknesses, and he acknowledged them later on. One of the guys he fought was Floyd Patterson in the days where people didn't like Ali because of the Vietnam War, because of his association with the Nation of Islam. And Floyd Patterson was more of the American, and, you know, everybody liked Floyd Patterson. And Muhammad Ali wanted to punish Floyd Patterson. And he did. Instead of knocking him out right away, he would punch him. And even more so, it was some of his other guys he fought. He would keep them going and punch them. Not too many, but Joe Frazier was, their other two fights, especially the third fight with Joe Frazier, their rematches, they were out to kill each other in that third fight. They despised one another. And so Ali admitted that, and he apologized for that. He turned his back on Malcolm X, his spiritual teacher. When there was controversy going on about the leaders in the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X got thrown out of the organization. And Ali stuck with the Nation of Islam and turned his back on Malcolm X. And he said, I regretted that. I deeply regret that decision. So what did he do? He admitted some of the things he had done. He admitted it to himself, and he apologized. And I think that's part of believing in yourself. It's recognizing your strengths, and it's also recognizing areas where you have to grow, areas where you are not measuring up to where you'd like to be, so that you can build on those strengths. And his faith helped him in that. Admit your mistakes. Act as if, face adversity with optimism and purpose, and know that God is in your corner. And lastly, love God and people. Muhammad Ali seems to me, just like it says of Jesus, Jesus grew in wisdom and in stature. Muhammad Ali grew in wisdom and in stature, in his faith, in his understanding of God. His daughter, Hana Ali, said, one of my father's sayings was, rivers, lakes, and streams all have different names, but they all contain water. So do religions have different names, but they all contain truth. He always taught me there's only one true religion, and that's the religion of the heart. And as long as you do right and treat people right, I believe you go to heaven. And no matter what you call your religion. Eventually Ali split from the the Nation of Islam, because he was more inclusive in his spirituality, in his religion. He believed in inclusivity, which is one of our values here at Unity, inclusivity. And he did a lot of good in his life. Even a couple of his wives, you could see in one documentary I watched, they were interviewing a couple of his wives, Ken Burns' documentary, a wonderful documentary. And you could see both of his ex-wives still loved him. And one of them was talking about how generous he was. He would carry money around and give money to people who needed it. And his children and wife were like, whoa, wait a minute, what are you doing with all that money? There was one story where he was in the gym and his trainer, Angelo Dundee, came over to him and said, Ali, there's this guy who's going to be coming by the gym today. He doesn't have any legs, he's in a wheelchair, but he's a con man. He goes around asking everybody for money. He's probably going to come by today. So don't give him any money. So what happens? The guy in the wheelchair comes in the gym, goes to Ali. Ali gives him money. Angelo Dundee comes over and says, what are you doing? You gave the guy money. Ali looked at him and said, yeah, but you know what? You and I have legs. He was generous like that. He traveled the world. Once he got Parkinson's and could no longer fight anymore, as we know, he traveled the world as an ambassador of goodwill. In 92, he negotiated with Saddam Hussein to release the hostages. And in 96, he lit the Olympic cauldron in the Summer Olympics in Atlanta. And when he was holding, how many of y'all saw that? He lit the light and he was holding it above, and because of the Parkinson's, you could see he was determined to hold that torch above, but he was shaking. You could see the wear and tear of the Parkinson's on his body. And one journalist said, it was at that point that we all loved Ali. We loved Ali. And we felt guilt and we felt sympathy, because it was because of us that he entertained us and he put himself and got into that condition. It was because of us that he went through all that challenge and stuff that he went through. And we felt guilt and we felt sympathy, because now we could see his humanness, and we liked him now for what we didn't like him then. We liked him because he was right. He was right. Coretta Scott King said to him, "You are a champion of justice and peace and human dignity." He was awarded the Athlete of the Century, the 2005 Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest award a civilian can be given. They opened a $60 million Muhammad Ali Center in Louisville, Kentucky. In 2009, Ali attended President Obama's first inauguration, who later called Ali in tribute. He said, "The man who believes real success comes when we rise after we fall, who has shown us that through undying faith and steadfast love, each of us can make this world a better place. He is and always will be the champ." If Muhammad Ali were here today, I think he would probably say that the spirit within all of us, he would say, not only I am the greatest, but you, and you are the greatest. Let's get still. And let us just be grateful first for the presence and activity of spirit that guided and directed Muhammad Ali to be a voice of pride, a voice of equality, of justice. And grateful for the awareness that, like Ali, we too have spirit in our corner, that we too have greatness within us, for spirit is within us. We are created in the image and likeness of God. And God doesn't play favorites. God favors everybody. And Ali reminded us of that truth. And we thank you, Father, Mother God, for your guidance and direction in our life. Thank you for helping us to be the people that we're here to be, to let our light shine in the unique individual way that we're here to let our light shine. We may not be able to influence the people that Ali did, but we certainly can be a champion in our own lives. And we thank you, Father, Mother God, for this truth. And wherever Ali is today, in that other dimension of life, we send him and his family love, light, and peace, and gratitude. And so it is. Amen. Thank you for joining me this morning, those of you here in the space and online. And I'd like to thank Jamie Lula and Arne Batson from California, helping us, inspire us this morning with the music. And thank you for our team in the back here who helps bring this broadcast and the sound and the light and all that. Lucid Studios and all you folks in the back there, thank you for your work. And my operations manager, Debbie, Thank you all. Please join me now for the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. God bless you. Namaste.